What is beauty in your opinion?
Oh boy. I think actually I've revised what I said. That's the hardest question.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it is really, honestly. That is the hardest question. Um, okay, boy, that is a really, 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 really hard one because um, I think in terms of the the dualities of things when I begin thinking about something like this. So in other words, people oftentimes think of beauty in terms of its opposite, right? So they'll think of what is ugly, right? But the
Mm.
reality is that it is yin and yang. There's a drop in each,
Yeah, yeah.
and the universe is not so simplistic that I could tell you what I think the definition of beauty is. I actually, I mean, this is part of I think what my search is when I'm as an artist
Mm.
is not to define beauty, but to see what the limits are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because um, because I here's the thing. I think oftentimes when people think about beauty, let's say let's take this down to a formalist thing, right? Where that deals specifically with the human form. Okay. Oftentimes, when people talk about beauty, when they talk about say humans, for example, right? Talk about human beauty.
Yeah.
Um, uh, they're not necessarily talking about the sort of Apollonian high classical Greek definition of like a search for what beauty is philosophically.
Mm-hmm.
What they're really talking about is just sexual desirability,
Uh-huh.
which
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me, which to me doesn't serve the purpose of the
Yeah.
question, right? At all, right? I mean, that's a totally different thing. And that if you go in that direction, like an evolutionary biologist will be
Yes.
be better able to answer that. And I don't think that's not where you're going. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just sort of setting that on the table and pushing it aside a little bit because I think that's oftentimes one of the things that people think of first,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look. I mean, to deny that it exists as something inherent in us that when we recognize it is foolish as well. I mean, you and I could see a beautiful man. We're both looking and we'd be like, yeah, he's a beautiful man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, right? We know when we look, we see. But now, having said that, that's oftentimes framed within what I just said, which is more of an evolutionary thing about what is sexually desirable for some sort of reproductive purpose,
Mm.
right? Or whatever societal structures have created a sense of beauty because of the function of it, right? It's literal functionality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as a broader question, what beauty is, I think that's a really difficult one because
Yeah.
um, how do you like? I was thinking about this recently because started doing this series of pregnant females
Mm.
that are that started with friends of mine, and I'm hoping I can expand it. I have four going right now, and I'm hoping to do a whole series. And so I was thinking about this, like it's a really like seeing a pregnant like a woman pregnant like in natural state because they're nudes as well. The pieces I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. I was thinking, wow, it's a really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And then I started thinking, well, wait, what does that mean? Like, what
Mm.
do I mean by it's beautiful?
Mm.
Like, it's beautiful, like, not just the form. I mean, it's a beautiful idea. It's this concept of the universe, like pushing itself outward.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like the universe is expanding its way of expressing things. You know, um, and and so I don't but it's also slightly terrifying, right? This mystery, right? So I think that's how I would begin thinking about beauty is when it inspires some thought about a mystery that 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 changes your vision of the world, and it's why oftentimes beauty and terror are so closely linked.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll give you an example would be um, say a tiger, right? Like if you see a tiger, that's a beautiful creature.
Mm-hmm.
It's also terrifying,
Yeah.
right? So because and so we so that's why I find the question the answering the question of what is beauty is so difficult because oftentimes it leads me down pathways that I suddenly realize, oh wait, that's not what I thought beauty was.